Hi, this is Jordan Ramirez, and normally I host my podcast show, Film Talk with Jordan Ramirez. Now I am hosting a special show for my podcast, Film Talk with Jordan Ramirez Minisode Jordan Ramirez Recommends. The minisodes are now airing every Monday at 12 p.m. as part of the Film Talk with Jordan Ramirez podcast. So, without further ado, you are listening to a Film Talk with Jordan Ramirez Minisode. For my 11th episode, my recommended film is the drama feature Carol, released in 2015, directed by Todd Haynes, starring Cate Blanchett, Rooney Mara, Sarah Paulson, and Kyle Chandler. It is the story about Therese Belivet, played by Rooney Mara, who works at a department store to earn enough money for her day job as a photographer. At the store, Carol Aird, played by Cate Blanchett, a married socialite woman, is at the store looking for a Christmas toy to buy for her daughter. Thus begins the forbidden love affair between Carol and Therese. But in the middle of this affair, Carol is in the middle of a divorce from her husband, Harge, played by Kyle Chandler, who becomes suspicious of her love affair with the mysterious woman Carol had been with named Abby, played by Sarah Paulson. It's a romantic love story between two women who become trapped in the conventions of mainstream society of the 1950s decade, and the choice that Carol must make between her daughter or her lover. The film is nothing more than a brilliant character study between two women, Therese and Carol. It also examines the restraints and trappings of 1950s America when women and people who were gay, lesbian, bisexual, or whatever sexual orientation did not have equal rights to make their own decisions in conservative mainstream America. Haynes' direction, Nagy's script, and the performances of Rooney Mara and Cate Blanchett display the complex and nuanced characters of Therese and Carol, who may seem flawless on the surface, but they are also vulnerable to the world around them that is trying to regress their liberated freedom to express their sexual identity as a woman and as a lesbian in the story. One of the strongest aspects of the film is the cinematography by Edward Lockman, who was able to make the film authentic of the period by filming in 35 and 16mm film to make it feel as if you were watching a home movie, to get a picturesque feel of nostalgic 1950s Americana. The details of the period also include production design by Judy Becker to capture the environment of what the interiors and exteriors of the different locations of houses, stores, and motels looked like from this period, and the costume design by Sandy Powell is also another strength of this film. The costumes match the personalities of the characters with each sequence of the film, identified by their color choices that matches the characters on screen. For Carol, it was an orange fur coat, and later in another sequence she wears a red dress. Therese's color choices are more loose and are in a red, blue, and yellow color palette that she wears throughout the entire film. Carol was based on the novel The Price of Salt by Patricia Highsmith, who went under the pseudonym Claire Morgan. It was published in 1952 and republished again in 1990 when it was retitled Carol, and Patricia Highsmith used her own name for the book. The process of adapting the book to the screen took a long and arduous time, since it involved financing, rights issues, and finding the right people to be attached to this project. Phyllis Nagy, a close friend of Patricia Highsmith, was approached to adapt The Price of Salt into a screenplay, but she was not interested. So, producer Dorothy Berwin approached Nagy in 1996, a year after Highsmith's death, to adapt the novel to the screen as an offer. Berwin bought the rights to Highsmith's novel and was looking for writers to adapt the story as a script. So she wrote her first script for the adaptation. Berwin got the financing for the film rights of the book with the development funds from Film 4. Hollywood by the time was not interested in making a mainstream lesbian love story. So the story remained on the shelf until Nagy approached Elizabeth Carlson to make the project. Carlson was enamored and determined to do it after she read the script. The only caveat was that Berwin retained the rights and had no interest in selling. It would take a decade later, when the rights went back to the book publishers in Switzerland in 2011, that Carlson and her husband, Stephen Woolley, persuaded the publishers to sign over the rights to them, since their version would be faithful to Highsmith's novel. They were persuaded and the rights were signed over to them. By the time that pre-production had started on May 2012, there were 3 hires for the project: John Crowley as the director, Cate Blanchett, and Mia Wasikowska as the main stars. The project was originally going to start in February 2013 with filming in London and New York when John Crowley left the project since he was working on post-production for his other film Closed Circuit, and Mia Wasikowska left the project also. Christine Vachon of Killer Films, the production company, told Carlson about her collaborator Todd Haynes, who would be perfect for the project. Haynes was brought on to direct the film, and Rooney Mara, who was reluctant at first to do the film because she was exhausted, was now on board to do this film. The U.S. rights were acquired by the Weinstein Company. Pre-production began on January 2014, and Phyllis Nagy was brought back for the minor script rewrites and was looking for a style of the film from the director. The director brought over a barrage of archival images by Esther Bublé, Helen Levitt, and Ruth Orkin for the production team, and they delivered. The film was shot for a period of 34 days in Ohio since the location scouts were looking for an area that would match mid-century New York, and Cincinnati, Ohio became the double for New York in the 1950s decade. Carol had its world premiere at the 2015 Cannes Film Festival and later had its North American debut at the Telluride Film Festival on September 4, 2015, and the New York Film Festival on October 9, 2015. It was given a limited release on November 20, 2015, and it was a critical success and a perennial audience favorite. As you watch this film, don't think of it as a film that is trying to duplicate a 1950s Hollywood film style, but instead look at it as a postmodern take on 1950s Americana that feels more picturesque and nostalgic, but with some contemporary flair. I hope that you enjoy my recommendation for this film. This has been a Film Talk with Jordan Ramirez Minisode. Tune into the Minisodes every Monday at 12 p.m. and Film Talk with Jordan Ramirez every Friday at 4 p.m. on Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Radio Public. If you are on Spotify, make sure to subscribe to my show and give it a positive rating in order for the show to keep getting recognition and to keep going. And until then, I'll see you at the movies.